Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Best Ever You Show. I'm Elizabeth, here with Dr. Michael Aziz. What an honor it is to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth.
Yeah, you have a new book out. I'm so excited to talk about that with you. So we're going to have you hold that up in just a minute. But boy, I almost want to read this a little bit, but you are an internist, anti-aging, regenerative physician specialist, board certified in internal medicine. You're an attending physician at Lenox Hill Hospital, serving patients in Manhattan and the Midtown East area. And you've appeared so many different places. I've seen you on the doctors, and I've seen you in all sorts of different places. So it's really cool that you're here on Best Ever You. And you have a new book coming out. I'm so hoping you will hold that up and show us your new book, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So cool. There it is, The Ageless Revolution. And that's in pre-order right now, everybody. So you can head over to Amazon and pre-order your copy. It comes out, I think, in late January. Is that right?
January 14th.
January 14th, so middle of January. All right. So I know I didn't go through every qualification, but what I'll do with the show is post your bio and post links to your website and the books and all that stuff. So let's get started talking about your book. Um, Actually, where I want to go first in your book, I was reading the intro and things like that. Can you give us a little bit of background on how you arrived at being a doctor, and then how COVID changed some of the things that you're doing today?
Well, it was always my dream to be a doctor. I think I made that decision when I was about probably like 14 or 15. Actually, I was a very poor student and my grades were very low. And somehow I just realized I was not doing much in my life, even though at such a young age. So I did not think I was smart enough to be a doctor, but surprisingly, when I put effort into it, all of a sudden my grades were great and they improved a lot. And I made it to go to medical school. And then my life was over after that. I was like, I never knew. It was like all the years went by. So I went to medical school. I've been in practice for a very long time, for 30 years. I published a book about 14 years ago, The Perfect 10 Diet. It's a clean diet that balances hormone, very different from all the popular diets, low fat and low carbs. It balances hormone, it does not mess them up. So it's a very clean diet with no chemicals. And it's very hard to write a book. It takes a very, very long time. And my first book took a very long time to write, but it was the number one book on Amazon for, I think, for 8 weeks in 2010. And I really did not think I was going to write a second book, but I had something new to say. And I think it was COVID-19 that was the wake up call, like a light bulb went in my head. And I said, we're not healthy as a society. We're very sick. And we live in a disease care society. And even young people right now are aging at a much faster rate and at a much younger age than our generation, our parents and grandparents. And if you take a look at the lifespan in the United States, it's about 73. It's 3 years down from 76 after COVID. It is the lowest in the Western world.
Hmm.
It is Mississippi has a lower lifespan than Bangladesh.
Wow.
We spend so much money on health care, like we live in a disease care society, and it's very, very bad. And I realized I had to do something, and probably it's kind of revolutionary to call aging a disease, but I'm labeling aging as a disease that has to be treated. And that's what I did by coming up with the book, The Ageless Revolution, the 10 hallmarks of aging, the reasons why our cells deteriorate, why we age, why we get old, why we get sick, and why we die. And I'm throwing the kitchen sink. I got all the weapons that no one is talking about to fight aging on the cellular level.
you
And that's
know,
my story. So here you
No,
are.
I love it because it feels to me like a lot of us pay so much attention to our 11s and our wrinkles and our hair color and our nails and our spots on our spots on our skin are important and things like that, but we're not so much paying attention to the internal, what you can't see happening. And so it scares me a lot. I worry. My mom just turned 79 today, And my grandmother lived to be 100, and her mother lived to be 105. And I'm like, what do you guys do? I always want to know. And they didn't drink, they didn't smoke, they didn't eat very much, they exercised, they did all these things. Um, is that where you're at with it all, or what's
So
new?
the
Yeah, tell me
Ageless
all about
medicine
it.
is very different from all the other diets on the market because many of the anti-aging book, and I understand there are a few books on the market that address aging, but I think the problem with them is they only look at aging from one little angle or from one point of view. They may say, you know what, well, why don't you fix your diet? And then they talk about the blue zones where people live to be 100. Well, I don't live in Greece. I don't live in Italy. I don't live in Okinawa. So I bring the anti-aging secrets from all over the world, not just the blue zones. And then some books are very advanced. You know, they talk about things that are not very doable, but or that are very, very expensive and they're not doable. What I want to do is I want to bring anti-aging to everyone and to make it affordable for everyone, for all the people who are forgotten in this broken healthcare system. So I want to make it doable, practical, and affordable. So my book has something for beginners, mid-level, and advanced. I take the anti-aging to the doctor's office. So this way you're educated. You even know more than the doctors in aging. Like, I want this, I want that. What do you think of that? This is what I want to get on. I should get this supplement. I want this medication to fight aging. And that's how this book is different because it's more of an encyclopedia for anti-aging, and it's come more comprehensive, and it is the first book on the market that targets all the hallmarks of aging, all 10 hallmarks, not just one or two, but all of them.
Yeah, we see a lot of books at Best Ever You come our way for this or that and promoting them and stuff. And I've read your book. I have an advanced copy of it. I'm telling everybody, please go buy this book. It's absolutely amazing. And we're fellow HCI authors, so I say that too, like, it's our HCI family. But aside from that, if this were, any other publisher or anything like that, I'd probably say the same thing, or would say the same thing, because it's just fabulous. It's almost like groundbreaking uh, aging advice, and it feels to me like you're going to make a lot of us have less anxiety about it as well, because it's like questions answered. Here it is. Here's what you can do to slow this process down, because a panic sort of sets in at a certain age. You're like, how do I not do this? Like, how do I reverse this and live to be this age or that age? And I think you figured it out. I would love to hear more to help our listeners and readers and viewers.
Well, I have a lot of experience. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I trained in functional medicine. And and what I did is I assembled all the information for the readers. So I did all the homework. I've attended tons of lectures. I've watched all the anti-aging doctors, and I wanted to make it just simple for people. Do as much or as little as you want, and you will see results. So you don't have to go the extreme like what the movie stars are doing and the super rich that are doing. So I take it from basic stuff, from superfoods, all the way to advanced medicine, to stem cells and peptides and bioidentical hormones, to the medication that affect longevity. And you take it as little as you want or as much as you want. You can implement as little as you want or as much as you want. But whatever you do is going to have a positive effect on your life.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, because everything adds up. And it's a process, like I did not reach that level of very advanced in my own anti-aging. It took me, I talk about my personal story in the book, that it took me a very long time. I was on the wrong path for a long time. I was pre-diabetic. I followed the wrong guidelines because the guidelines in this country are totally wrong, including from the old USDA food pyramid. The low-fat guidelines are all full of sugar. Sugar is the worst thing you could do for anti-aging. Some people gave up on the low-fat that we're advised to follow and started following low-carb diets. But then low-carb diets are full of other chemicals other than sugar, and nitrites damage the DNA. They are linked to cancer. So people judge their weight by how many pounds they lost on their bathroom scale, but don't realize sometimes that the healthy diet that they're following are also shaving off a few years off their life.
Yeah. It's you just touched on a few things that, sugar and the things that we all love to do sort of, but they're not so good for you, are there? You have 10 hallmarks of aging. Do you want to go through a few of them, or do you want to rattle them all off, or
You have to fight all of them. You can't just fight one or two. Otherwise, that's the other books that talks about. But let's say, for example, one of the hallmark of aging is we have young cells in our bodies and we have old cells. We're always in a process of rejuvenation. And the problem, this is one of the hallmark of aging, is like the old cells don't die. They just stick around. And not only they don't work, so now the young cells have to overwork, but the old cells are also secreting chemicals and cytokines that damage the young cells. So you have to get rid of the old cells. So one way to get rid of the old cells is basic stuff, is sleep. Sleep is very, very important for anti-aging. We see a lot of people who do shift work, um, nurses at night, people who work nights, they have higher mortality from heart disease and stroke. And that because during sleep, not only we secrete growth hormone, but we also we secrete a hormone called melatonin. And melatonin is a sleep hormone. But melatonin is not only a sleep hormone, it's also an antioxidant that protects the mitochondria, which are the battery of your cell. So if your cell phone is not charged, it cannot work. So your mitochondria needs to be charged. So when we get enough sleep, our mitochondria are working, our cells are working. So we have to get rid of the senescent cell. And one way to get rid of senescent cells or the old cell, they even call them zombie cells because they're like in the movies, they don't die. So
yeah.
is sleep, caloric restriction on the weekend. Maybe you skip breakfast, you just do brunch and dinner. So you get rid of the senescent cell. And there are supplements that I talk about in the book that are very essential to get rid of senescent cell, like fisetin, quercetin, and there are some medications as well. So that's one of the hallmarks that I attack from different angles, from lifestyle to caloric restriction to supplements, or even you can go to medications.
Yeah, I get so happy when I hear doctors say something like sleep can change your life instead of handing me a pill that can change my life. Because personally, I have life threatening food allergies that I've had since I was 26 or so. I got them after a pregnancy. I developed food allergies to fish and shellfish and peanut and tree nut. And there are four life threatening food allergies on board that I haven't been able to shake no matter what. So I have a medic alert on and all these things. And so I'm constantly looking for things for our food allergy community that are pure like that. Because we're also so touchy. It's a huge 1 in 13 kids has a food allergy now, and it's a ton of people and a ton of stressed out parents with that as well. So if you've got anything like any advice on that too, because it's all it seems like it compounds. I read this quote the other day. I think it was somewhere on like Instagram. It's like what you do in your 30s affects your 40s. What you do in your 40s affects your 50s to your 60s, and so forth. Do you think that's true?
Well, as we get older, sometimes we develop even some food allergies that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
And what happens is some people could be allergic to higher amounts. So they may not have, for example, some people like, for example, the number one allergies is dairy from cows. It's 7%. So you may not have a little bit of a problem having a little bit of milk on your coffee, but then if you have two latte, you may break up in a rash. So I think it's important to get tested to know exactly what you're allergic to because you don't want to deprive yourself of certain food, and you want to be also alert if you're allergic to a certain food that can give you an anaphylactic reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of scary. There's so much information out there. You kind of go, okay, what do I trust? And so I love trusted people like you who have done the work, have written books, have done the research, and so forth. Um, do you have any other aging secrets that you want to give us, like more hallmark, another hallmark of aging? I mean, we'll take what we can get here, please.
There's no magic pill. It's a lot
I
of
know.
pills.
A lot of work.
I take close to 20, 30 supplements a day because even that book for me has been an anti-aging journey to realize, oh, I'm not taking care of my gut. So gut health is another hallmark of aging. And right now we have We have a problem in our gut in the United States. In our gut lives about 36 trillion bacteria. We have more cells, bacteria in our gut than cells in our bodies. And if you don't
Wow.
take care of them, you're going to end up with disease. So actually, it's one of the hallmark of aging. So in fact, we don't have enough fermented food. We don't eat enough probiotics in our diet. We eat so much sugar that we feed the wrong bacteria. So now what we have is colon cancer is the leading cancer in men below age 50.
Wow.
And in the same time, we take a look at women in South Korea who are going to be the first in the world to make it to age 90.
Mm.
And that's because of a special dish that they do. It's called kimchi, which is fermented vegetables.
Yeah.
And that's so one trick up my sleeve is to have more fermented products, to have more yogurt, to have more kefir. If you are allergic to dairy, you can have kombucha, you can have kimchi if you want, because you have to take care of your gut bacteria. That's another thing to take care of for us to live better, to prevent cancer, to keep our weight, and also they are also those bacteria affect our mood.
Yeah. I want to make sure I respect your time because I know, we don't have, we can't go on for an hour and things like that, but I love topics like this. So I hope you'll come back and things like that. But do you have maybe like 10 more minutes or so, 15 more minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, I want to go to why the ageless diet. What is discussed in the book that's so different? So what's in here that's so different compared to other books? So what's that mean? What's ageless diet mean?
Well,
I
I told you, Elizabeth, at the beginning of our when we met, is that I wrote a book about 12, 13 years ago called The Perfect 10 Diet. And I wrote this book because I had something new to say at the time, just like I have something new to say now. And the Perfect 10 Diet is a diet that balances hormone, and it's a hormone-friendly diet. It doesn't have any chemicals. It doesn't allow any sugar, so it doesn't have cereals and margarine like the low-fat diets. It doesn't have any nitrites, bacon, and sausage like all the low-carb diets that allow you to eat anything that's poisonous as long as it's sugar-free. We know that artificial sweeteners are linked to heart attacks. We know nitrites, I just told you earlier, they damage our DNA. We need to protect our DNA, not damage our DNA. That's why we take taurine, another supplement that protects our DNA. I take taurine 2 grams a day. It's a very important, most important supplement.
What's it called?
Taurine, Taurine, 2 grams a day. That's probably one of the best longevity supplement. It can give us 8 to 9 years of longevity, and that's
Love that.
yes. So
I'm
that
not taking that.
I
So
recommend that to all the people watching and listening to us now. So yes, so the perfect 10 is a diet that balances hormone. It does not mess them up. It does not have any chemicals. And I wrote the book because I was fed up with all the low-fat guidelines, with all the sugar, all the
yeah,
chemicals, all the vegetable oils, which are very bad for us. And the low carbs are not any uh, better. And then people sometimes they follow popular diets. So they buy those packaged food that are sitting in the supermarket. They're sitting there for a year with all the chemicals. I don't even
crazy.
know what are those chemicals. I haven't heard of them. I don't know what they do. I don't think there's research on what they do. So the Perfect 10 was a very clean diet. And in the Ageless Revolution, I took it up a few notches by copying the diet of the Blue Zones. What are those people doing to live such a long life? And I think the most important, besides sleep, is a diet. So the secret to longevity is to stay away from sugar, is to stay away from chemical, is to go organic, is to take care of your gut. And another thing is to eat more fat, natural fats, olive oil, avocados, nuts, butter, because low fat are very bad to absorb the fat soluble vitamin. We're missing vitamin K, we're missing vitamin D. Vitamin D, for example, is the reason why so many people got sick during the COVID pandemic because our immune system is suppressed. And especially if you live in the Northeast, you live in Maine, you live in New York, you don't get enough sun, then you're going to be low in vitamin D. And your level of vitamin D is over 50. The chances of dying of COVID is zero. So
Yeah.
all the people who died during COVID, it was really very sad because it was unnecessary, and it was I saw the sadness in their parents' eyes, and it was just nobody's taking vitamin D in the Northeast, and that's why they got sick when the COVID was a test that we all took and we all failed.
Yeah.
So God, I forgot what was the question. We're talking about how
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. I think you covered it.
back to what the ageless diet. The ageless diet take away from this from the blue zones. What are these people eating to live to be 100? So yeah, and and I go beyond the blue zone. So in Monaco, for example, they also live to 90, 88, 90. They're eating a lot of seafood. Um, in South Korea, they're eating the kimchi. In Okinawa, Japan, they're eating sweet purple potatoes, which have more antioxidants than berries. And then the secret to longevity and in those diets is they don't eat enough. They don't eat more protein or excess protein. So we have a trend in this country where we're going high protein, low carb, and
Yeah.
now high protein have been switched from high protein, low carb to now keto. Keto is the new term for low carb, which is now in fashion in all the magazines. And but keto is nothing but a twist on the low carb approach from the 1980s. And you increase your diet to 80%, 70% fat. Well, how are you going to get any antioxidants if you're just eating a salad made of lettuce and bacon and cheese? And so heart disease is really a disease of protein intoxication. It's not a disease of eating too much fat. It's not from eating too much shrimp or eating too much eggs. It's from eating too much protein. We found people doing high protein that they lose weight, and they, like I told you, they judge your success by that. But what they do, you do CAT scan of their arteries, of their coronaries, you find that they have the arteries are blocked up to 10, 15 years because the high protein breaks another protein called uric acid, and uric acid is linked to higher mortality. So you want to lower your protein intake. You just eat enough to keep your muscle mass as you get older. So I would say like the size of the palm of your hand, 2, 3 times a day, but can be eating protein all day and cutting out all the carbs. So yeah, so the Ageless diet takes it up several notches from the perfect 10 by going to see what those people in the blue zone are eating, by having more beans, by having less animal products, by eating more superfoods, and I take their diets from all over the world and I put it in the Ageless diet.
Yeah. I always get stressed out when I want to go eat like blueberries and strawberries and things like that, and then they end up on some list that you shouldn't eat because they're so.
They are in the
I'm like,
dozen.
well, should I eat it or not?
You have to go organic with certain vegetables.
Okay.
Like some vegetables, you don't have to go organic, like mangoes, bananas. But with there's a list from the USDA Department of Agriculture where they tell you this one you probably should go organic. If and they are available in regular supermarkets. You can buy berries and strawberries organic from the supermarket. It's few, maybe 40 cents more, but I think it's worth. You don't want to. We're eating 2 pounds of pesticides a year in the United States. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, very, very a lot. Okay, I'm going to ask the Ozempic question just because I think I can. Can I? People think it's a magic cure. Is it? Is it not? And so forth. We have a son who's got a master's degree in pharmacology from Georgetown, and he's working on his PhD next. And he's like, absolutely do not take that. There's not enough research done, all this stuff. And he is against it. Are you against it? Or how do you say that politely?
I mentioned Ozempic and Monjaro in the book. In fact, there's another drug coming soon on the market. It's called Triple G. It works on 3 hormones, and people who took it lost 1/3 of their body weight. It's going to make Ozempic is like baby stuff compared to it.
Wow.
And I think the best thing to do, I have them in the book as a last resort.
Okay.
You really have to address your diet, your lifestyle. I have friends who are doctors who take Ozempic and then they order pizza. Well, guess what? Once you get off the Ozempic, you're going to gain the weight back. So you have to address your lifestyle. But I think they could be an answer for many people who have given up. I think one of the biggest problems with them is people tend to lose muscle mass, and you want to keep your muscle. So if you're going to take one of those GLP drugs, you really have to increase your anaerobic activity. So maybe at the gym, do more weightlifting. You don't want to lose muscle, you want to lose the fat. And they do have some cardioprotective effect. They prevent heart attack, they prevent stroke, they prevent death by 20%. So they kind of longevity, but they have some side effects as well, the nausea, they paralyze. But they could be very helpful for someone who has really tried everything and nothing worked. And that's why it's part of the revolution. It's part of all the medicine we have now that can change how we live. But they should not be something permanent. They should not be something for life. You should change your lifestyle.
Okay, I'm going to go all hormonal on you now. Next.
I talk about this in the book too. It's like, it's like here's one summer here.
No, no, but I'm going hormonal on you.
And you reach the part
So
of the book where I talk about one
yeah,
summer.
it froze. Hang on. There we go. What'd you
Yeah.
say? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I was saying, did you reach the part of the book where I talk about hormones and Suzanne Summer?
Yeah, I love her. It's a shame she passed away, but I think she's very interesting. Yeah. Do you love her?
I met Suzanne 12 years ago during a medical conference. We said hello, we talked for a few minutes, and then people asked me in magazines to comment on her books and articles. I had to
Oh goodness.
read
Yeah.
all her books. And then I think one time, I don't know, I don't remember it was the Daily News or the New York Post, I was misquoted that I was attacking her. But I wasn't really. It was my mistake, and I mentioned that story in my book that really I wasn't. I agreed on what she said, but it was my mistake. I did not proofread the article. The
Yeah.
editor was in a rush
That
to work.
happens.
And then when I apologized to her, when I saw her later on, she's like, "I'm always attacked for my views."
Yeah,
And
she is.
I mentioned in the book that we were also in a Zoom meeting during the COVID pandemic with her husband, and she only talked about hormones. And really, um, you know, I agreed on a lot of things she did, uh, but really her death really affected me a lot. And at that day, I almost said the
Sad.
book was almost done, and I mentioned the story in my book. I almost said that, oh my God, she's doing everything. I mean, I didn't agree on her taking growth hormone
Right.
because growth hormone is linked to higher mortality, promotes cancer. But I'm not her doctor, And but when she died, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am all these pills I'm taking? I called a very good friend of mine who is a health editor, and I said, you know what? I'm going to change the book. I don't think we have control over what we do. I'm like, I'm playing God here. I'm not God.
Yeah.
And then he just told me, um, you cannot do that. You stop believing in what you're saying. You don't believe that you're eating right can make you live long. I said, of course it can make you live long. You don't believe that if you get enough sleep, you're gonna live long. You don't think of the medicine the medicine you give make people long. I said, I do. I said, so why you want to change your message? I
Yeah,
said,
exactly.
God. He said, no, you're doing something big. You're trying to give people hope that you can change your life by doing positive things. And I mentioned the story in the chapter of hormones in the book because really it would have affected the whole, path of the book. So I kept the book as my original plan to be a
Yeah, no,
positive.
I'm happy you did.
We
Yeah,
can do
it's
our very best. We at the end we have no control. I can get hit by a car.
yeah, I know it is, and that's the anxiety about it. And I think people are just trying to do what's right for them and try things and so forth. And hormones always scare me. I'm 55. I'm in that age group where they said don't do this. It causes cancer. So I'm one of those people who doesn't have HRT or anything like that at this
So
point.
it's different, Elizabeth, between men and women. First, we have to talk about the difference between bioidentical hormones, which are natural hormones, or synthetic hormones that we were trained in medical school and residency to give women in menopause.
Yeah,
The synthetic hormone are from horses, like the Prempro, all that stuff, Premarin, that give people cancer. Now, bioidentical hormones are from yams, and they're identical to human hormones. And after Suzanne wrote her book, I forgot what was the name of her book. It's called Ageless or something like that. And she talked about the sale of the synthetic hormone plummeted. So what happened is the drug companies started making bioidentical hormone that you can get from your local pharmacy. You can get it from CVS. You can get it from Duane Reade, and they're bioidentical. You don't have to go to a compounding pharmacy. They're natural hormones, and of course, you can only do the small amounts just to function.
yeah,
Um, so they are linked to longevity in women if you go to the right doctor and do them correctly. Synthetic hormones are not good. When it
good.
comes to men, testosterone is not linked to longevity. It makes you feel good. It gives you energy. It gives you sex drive. It gives you muscles. But unfortunately, testosterone is not linked to longevity. And then the biggest miss in longevity is growth hormone, HGH, and that can shorten life. So a lot of people anti-aging clinic are giving growth hormone, and growth hormone promotes cancer. You wanna raise your growth hormone naturally by intermittent fasting, by caloric restriction, by doing anaerobic activity, by eating protein after working out. But you don't want to inject any growth hormone because that shortens life. But
You know,
bioidentical hormones for women is a good choice, and I mentioned that in the book. I have a chapter on hormones where I talk about my story with Suzanne Summer.
I love the fact that you just mentioned men because half of our audience is men, and the other half of the audience is men too, via their wives or, or other people saying, "Hey, look at this." So, 100% of the audience is men,
Well, not
and
only
they're always
that, no, it's not only women. Women don't do anything about menopause, but also men don't do anything about their testosterone. Because the problem is, um, when you go to the doctor, they always compare you to your age group, and
yeah,
that is wrong. You want
yeah,
to be compared to the younger person you can be. Like, I also tell a story in my book where, like, my mom went through menopause in one of the worst ways. And when the women during menopause, the sex hormone, they just drop like this, like they
oh,
just vanish. And she
wild,
just
yeah,
had, like hot flashes, night sweats. She was screaming. We thought she lost her mind, and it went on for 2, 3 years. And what happens is the woman's sex hormone, the estrogen, progesterone, they vanish. They go to zero, nothing. So you go to the doctor. What did they tell you? Hormones are normal. Yeah, they're normal for someone in menopause, but my mom lost her mind. You don't want to have the hormones of a woman in menopause. You want to have the hormones of a girl who is 18, 19, or at least functioning. So you got to have some, at least the function that you don't have the hot flashes. And the cells don't talk to one another. And that's one other hallmark of aging. So the problem is we go to our doctors, we trust them, but they have good intentions, but we were not trained. So the patient may go to the doctor, and then they go to the doctor, and his testosterone is 300, and he's like 50 years old, or even 18. Let's say he's 20, and then the doctor tells him your testosterone is normal. No, it's normal for someone who's 80, not who's 25. The reason his testosterone is so low at age 25 because this guy drinks a lot, he smokes pot, he stays up late,
yep, that'll do
doesn't
it.
take vitamin D, and he has all the symptoms of low T, which is he could be depressed, he could be having not building muscles at the gym, he could be having erection problem. And then what do the doctor do? They give him a prescription for
For that,
antidepressant or Viagra or whatever it is. But then the problem with testosterone stays unsolved. So yeah, you want to fix all the hormonal problem. It's another hallmark of aging. You want to fix not just the major hormone like insulin by cutting the sugar, but you also want to fix the minor hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone.
yeah. I just personal story for a second. I went to the doctor because I was having just the most ungodly migraines, like clockwork every month. Just like there it is, and it feels like the train goes off the tracks for a week. You're just like, oh my God, my headache kind of thing. And I went into the doctor and I'm like, this is like clockwork. This has got to be hormone related. Things are bouncing all around. Test me. And he goes, you look great. I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. Like you look great. What is that? I'm like, test kind of thing. And he's like, I'm glad, he actually apologized. He's like, I'm so sorry for saying that. I'm like, well, thank you. And, but he said, your estrogen is like plummeting or soaring or plummeting or soaring. Like this with testosterone and progest I think it was progesterone or something like that.
Progesterone.
Progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen were all awry. And so we kind of got to the bottom of it a little bit. But yeah, I have struggled with that up until I hit menopause. And now it seems like it's leveled out and there's no headaches. And I'm like, well, what's that mean? Exactly. What's gone? The
If there's no
estrogen.
history of breast cancer or anything like
Nothing.
that, I think being
Nothing.
on bioidentical hormones have a
Yeah,
good place for longevity because they protect women against osteoporosis, they prevent heart attacks, and so on.
I love it.
So I have a whole chapter in the book about that, about
Yeah.
hormone
Yeah, it
replacement.
was very helpful because there's so much confusion about that. You don't know where to step next to make sure you're okay. You don't want to have step wrong and have something happen as a repercussion. So you're like living going, well, I've got a headache again, kind of thing. So, I absolutely love your book. You are just fantastic to talk to, great personality, and thank you so much for sharing. Um, sharing yourself with our audience here at Best Ever You. I'm just
Oh,
so
it's the best
you're
gift
so
I can give
polite. Thank
everybody,
you.
longevity. And can I add something else?
Oh, please, yeah.
So I told you I wrote the book because I wanted to make a difference, to make our lifespan better, our health span better, to live longer. We should not be living 15 years less than than
Yeah.
other countries. And that was my goal with the book. But then my goals changed at the very end, and I realized that I want to make a huge difference. And so all the proceeds of the book are going for charity as well.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, I was. Breast cancer is another thing that's affecting women in America at a much higher rate, and it's affecting especially minorities, African American and Hispanic at 40%. And many of those women who are affected don't have the money. They don't have $1,000 in the bank, and I want to make a huge difference, not only for on an individual basis for everyone, but to help everyone on a humanitarian basis. So thank
I
you so
love
much
it.
for having me. So the Ageless Revolution is trying to make a revolution everywhere.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, hold the book up one more time. So I want to make sure everybody goes and pre-orders this. So Ageless Revolution, everybody, there it is. That's it's such it looks great too, by the way. Can I see the back of it?
Sure.
Oh, that's perfect. Great. What a it's
That's
nice
my
to have it.
that's my resume there.
Yeah, it sure is. That's awesome. Well, it's been wonderful to have you on the Best Ever You show. Best of luck with the launch. I hope you'll come back when the book is out and come back and talk to us
Sure.
again. And
And
do you have a
get a consultation with me.
yeah, oh no, I would love to. Where do we send do you have a website you want to send people to or anything like that?
You have my website for now, michaelazizmd.com, and I think the Ageless Revolution is being built right now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work. It took a lot of effort for the book to start. So now I have to work on the website.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I hear you. It's always something. It's easier to write the book than market the book. It feels like, but they're both really fun. So anyway, best of luck with everything. Thank you so much for the information, and and everybody's going to go out and get 2 grams a day of. Did you say taurine? Is that how you say?
You gotta work on their lifestyle first.
I
Then
love the
the healthy
taurine too.
habits, then they fix their diet and they get enough sleep, and
Sleep.
then they get on the taurine. You can get
Yeah.
taurine while you're staying out late at night.
I love that you mentioned sleep so much because like to that's the key to me. Like I have to sleep. Like I can sleep anywhere and I can sleep for 12, what you set the time. There's no timer. I could fall asleep for 14 hours and not from exhaustion. I just put myself to bed at night and I have a really good sleep. I do not struggle with sleep at all, ever. And my husband is like, how is this possible? Like, I just love my sleep. I don't know. So I love that you said that. I'm like, I feel better on that score for sure. I'm like, I love sleep. Is that a terrible thing to say? I love
That's
sleeping.
wonderful.
Sleeping and napping are just amazing. So anyway, all right. Mwah. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Best of luck with your book. And thank you, everybody, for watching the Best Ever You show. We're also going to air this on the Best Ever You show on the podcast as well. So you'll have an audio version of this as well. Again, Best Ever You show is so grassroots. We're at about 6 billion downloads and we are very husband funded. Thank you, Peter Guarino. And we love our guests. So what do we do when we have a guest? We go buy their books. We share their websites and we share their information with other people personally. That word of mouth is priceless. So please tell people that you saw Dr. Aziz on the Best Ever You show and that you got his book and tell somebody about his book. So, all right, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you, Dr. Aziz.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care, everybody.